Hey, hey, welcome to the Your Pretty Pennies. Your Pretty Pennies. Welcome to the Tara Jones-Williamson YouTube channel. I am also the owner of the Your Pretty Pennies YouTube channel, where I talk about finances and really creating, affording the lifestyle that you desire. Thank you so much. I just tried to do this live stream and it was no sounds. I am starting back up content on this channel. And so trying to figure out what's all I need in order to make this microphone function, this new microphone I got. And so working on the sound and all of that. So let me know if you're watching the replay or when you're coming in, how the sound sounds, like if it sounds good. Down here on my little thing, it looks like that the microphone looks good, the sound looks good. So I'm going to rock and roll with it. So yes, thank you so much for joining me. Dating godly men versus dating worldly men. This is a conversation I've been wanting to have for a while. A topic that I get so many questions about. And yeah, so if you are new to me, I am Tara Jones-Williamson, and I am by trade a financial success coach and a lifestyle designer. I help women attract and manifest their best lives. So, in all areas, right? And one area is love. A lot of requests comes from dating and relationships and people wanting to know like how I did it. I am 33 years old. I got married about 2.5 years ago after really revamping my life, after being a single mother for over 10 years, really revamping my life, revamping my mindset, and really constantly and consistently manifesting every desire that I have, and co-creating with God. And so I use this channel to share those tips and tricks on how to do that as well. The mindset that I went into dating, though, was dating godly men versus dating worldly men, and I use common sense. Now, this conversation I've been wanting to have for a while, but actually, I do have kind of like an example from a conversation my family member and I had the other day. And I'm just like, a leopard does not change its spots. A leopard looks like a leopard. A lion looks like a lion. A tiger looks like a tiger. We're not out here trying to give guys the benefit of the doubt and saying, you know what, even though he looks like a leopard, he might be a lion. He might be a unicorn. He might look very different. So we're going to not use common sense in this situation. So let's get into it. So I had a family member who reached out to me and said that, oh, this guy wants to take me out. He wants to fly me to this place. He is a bodyguard for a major artist. And, he just wants to take me and wine and dine me. And he said I could stay in this 5-star hotel and get all the access to this festival that's happening in a certain city. And yeah, he's going to give me all these things. So my response was, what does he want in return? Because this woman, she's a godly woman. She goes to church, she reads her Bible, she really used the commandments as a guideline for how she lives her life. And the guy that she's describing, most oftentimes than not, is not that dude, right? So she's like, oh, I said, what does he want in return? Nothing. He just wants to be in my presence, or he just wants to give me access to all these things. And I said, so he's offering you all these different things and doesn't want anything in return. That doesn't sound like a typical guy to me. And so she's like, well, he doesn't, he didn't ask, he didn't say he wanted anything. He just said he's gonna give me this access. He just messaged me on Facebook or messaged me and said, hey, he's in town, he's close by, and he wants to just give me all these things for free. And I said, well, I don't know what man who wants things unreciprocated. So one thing about men is they like reciprocation. And I will go as far as say all beings want reciprocation, right? I want, like, if I'm in a friendship or relationship, I want a give and take, right? And so men are the same way. They want to give and take. So if they are whining and dining you, if they are spending all this money with you and they haven't invested anything else in you, they're not your boyfriend. They're just somebody that you are casually talking to, and they're trying to woo you by saying, okay, hey, I got all access to all these things. You ain't got to give me nothing in return. That's a lie. More oftentimes than not, that is a lie. And moreover, to say, if you are a godly woman, if you are a woman after God's own heart, if you are a woman who wants a godly man, who wants to be courted and married by a godly man, a man that's a bouncer at some type of nightclub, a man that's a bodyguard for any secular rapper, a man who has these very worldly, very iffy lifestyles, 9 times out of 10 are not godly men. And that's one thing she was trying to argue. She was trying to, debate with me and said, well, he could be a godly man. He could be. You never know. You don't want to put him in a box just because he is around naked women all the time, just because he goes to strip clubs all the time, as his job, as his profession. Just because he does all these things does not mean that he necessarily doesn't read his Bible, that he doesn't go to church. And my response is, I don't care if you go to church. I do not care if you go to church. If you are truly accountable to God, you will not choose to put yourself in those situations, right? And so this is just one conversation that I had with a young lady. And there are many conversations that I have. And my thing is, it's like, ladies, use your common sense. Use your common sense. If you are dating a guy, or a guy wants to date you and he reaches out to you and you look at his social media and it looks like that he is not accountable to God, do not date that man. There is no way that he is putting out on social media, which is like, your business card, which is what you use to sell yourself to people, right? For lack of a better term, you're going to show what you really are, who you really are, what you're really about. Stop making excuses. Stop making these long shots for people and giving people a benefit of the doubt. If people show you who they are, believe them. Okay. One thing about my husband, when we first started dating and we were courting and everything else, we read the Bible. Who initiated Bible reading? He did. Now, I'm not over spiritual. I'm not like, oh my gosh, we got to be a Bible thumper. Oh my gosh, we got to be reading the Bible every day, all day. That's not me, right? Neither is my husband. However, learning the word of God, using the God as the instruction manual for my life and for his life was very important to both of us. Very important to both of us. So therefore, in our weekly interaction, it's going to come up. It's going to be something that we do together, right? So if you are dating a man and you never hear him talk about his relationship with other godly men, you never hear him talk about a pastor or some other figure, spiritual figure in his life that is helping him stay accountable to God, you never hear him talk about opening his Bible and reading it, right? Because to me, a man opening his Bible and reading his Bible on a consistent basis is more important than him attending church. I dated guys who went to church every single Sunday and every single Bible study, and you would think that they were just as worldly as a man who does not. However, I have yet to see a guy who constantly and consistently reads his Bible and consistently learns what Yah or God says about what a man should be, and not following those footsteps and completely disregard it. So for me, if I do not see a man opening his Bible, talking about the word, being proficient and talking about different things that has taken place in the Bible and that has been expressed from God to us, that's a red flag for me, right? And I would be pressed to say that a man who opens up his Bible on a consistent basis would not be trying to wine and dine you by taking you on lavish trips, doing all these other things, and expect nothing in return, who's a bodyguard for a secular artist, who's doing all these different things, who's going out to clubs on the weekend, right? There's still guys who are very much going out to clubs, going out to bars every weekend, and then try to tell you that they're a man of God. I'm sorry, I'm just hard pressed to see what their interest would be at a nightclub or at the lounge or the bar every weekend if they are a man of God. Just like as a woman of God, I guarantee you, if you're watching my channel, that's not really your thing anymore. That used to be your thing, but it's not really your thing anymore, right? You kind of grown out of that. Not to say there's something wrong with the people who do, more power to you. However, that's just not your interest. Like, your interest is no longer being around cigarette smoke, being around weed smoke, being around people who drunk, smelling alcohol, seeing people half naked, twerking and grinding on each other. Like, that's just not the space you want to be in anymore on your weekends. That's just not the vibe for you anymore. And so common sense will tell you, if a man is equally yoked to you and you don't like those things, common sense will tell you that he wouldn't like those things, right? So if a guy is approaching you on social media, reaching out on social media, approaching you, you know, from wherever you are, and you start to look at his lifestyle, and his lifestyle don't match up to a man that's a godly man, girl, he ain't godly, he's worldly, right? Stop making excuses for him. He ain't godly, he worldly. And guess what? There's more plenty fish in the sea. I always say, they ain't stop making men when they made him, right? They did not stop making men when they made him. Girl, move on to the next one, right? If you start seeing some inconsistency in what he says versus what he does, girl, move on to the next one. One of the things that really solidified me into accepting the ring and the proposal from my husband was that what he said is also what he did. His lifestyle lined up with that of a godly man. The way he treated his parents, the way he took church very importantly, his church attendance important, the way he consistently read his Bible, the fact that he was filled with the word of God before I met him. He wasn't doing it for me, right? He had a relationship with God before I even came in the picture. When I look at his social media accounts, he did not look like a worldly man trying to get attention from the latest and greatest type of woman, right? He was a very classic man, a very godly man. And not to say godly, again, I'm not saying like, oh, you got to have scripture up and down your page. Oh, you got to be overly churchy. That's not what I'm saying, because that's not my husband and that's not me. You can look at my social media channels. That's not me and that's not my husband. But we love the Lord very much. We love Jesus very much. And we are interested in learning more about the instruction God has for us. We are interested in reading our Bible. We do not have to wait for Bible study for somebody at our church to initiate Bible study for us to have Bible study. My husband and I do it at least one time a week, every week together. And then we do different Bible study readings on our own, right? Before we even met each other, right? So when you are dating and when you are going into the dating market, sis, think about that. Think about your common sense that says if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, eats what ducks eat, chances are it's a duck. Stop trying to say, you know what, I think that's a swan, even though it looks like a duck, acts like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, got feet like a duck, but I think it's a swan. That's just going to set yourself up for issues in the past and in the future, and also disappointment because you've seen the signs. One thing my sister and I always talk about is like, you'll see the red flags and swear they green. Like, girl, you collect the red flags left and right, but you swear they green. You swear it's the green light, but you know in your heart of hearts that they are red flags. But yet you will allow yourself to rationalize why this is okay, or why you can overlook this red flag, right? Girl, stop overlooking that red flag. Stop overlooking that red flag. If you felt like you needed a sign, if there's a guy in your life that you're dating and you are on the fence on whether or not he's a godly man versus a worldly man, chances are he's a worldly man, because you know what? Those who are truly invested in living for God and living God's way and opening their Bible and using their Bible as an instruction manual on how to live their life, oh, there is no fence straddling. It's either black or white with those type of men. With my husband, for example, he no longer wants to eat pork, right? So for the last, I would say, year, he's been getting us not to eat pork. So at first, it was like on Fridays, we would eat pizza. It would be pizza night on Fridays. Girl, now he like, I'm not ordering pepperoni pizza. If the pepperoni pizza ain't turkey pepperoni, you ain't getting it. Like, y'all can go get it, because he's not like controlling to where he like, oh, you can't eat that, girl, you better take that out your mouth. You know what I'm saying? He's not like that, but he's like, I'm not buying it. Once I got the revelation from God to say, hey, don't eat no more pork, that this part of the Bible was not done away with. This part of scripture was not done away with. I told you what is permissible for the descendants of the Israelites to eat and what they not supposed to eat. Don't eat this. If you are a child of God, don't eat this. He's like, I'm not eating it no more, period. And so he's like, you can eat it if you want, but I'm going to encourage you not to eat it, and I'm not buying it. He's not on that fence. He's not like, sometimes you can eat pork, sometimes we can buy it, sometimes we cannot. Those type of men, when they have the strength of the Lord in their hearts, and when they have their mind made up, their mind made up. And that's the type of man you want to date. You want to date a godly man who has his mind made up and he's all in for God. He is choosing to be an ambassador for God. Right? You don't want a man who's straddling the fence, because guess what? If you get married to him and he's wishy-washy about church, he's wishy-washy about Bible study, he's wishy-washy about following the 10 commandments, those are the type of men who are going to be wishy-washy about upholding the covenant between you, him, and God, upholding your marriage vows, upholding how he's supposed to be as a husband and as a father to your children. Right? How people do one thing is how they do everything, right? So if you want a godly man who's a spiritual covering and a physical covering over your life, you want him to have his mind made up. You want him to have your best interest at heart when you don't have your best interest at heart. Everybody know at my church, there are Sundays where I just be wanting to lay in the bed. It has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with, my church family. It has everything to do with I be staying up way too long on Saturday nights, and Sundays I be wanting to sleep in. And my husband be like, Tara, time to get up for church. 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 We going to church. Be ready by 10. Be ready by 10:15. Okay, you need 15 minutes. Be ready by 10:15. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's time to get up. He encourages me to get up and go to church. When you get up, we can, soon as church is over, I'll drop you off at home so you can take a nap. Right? He's like giving me opportunities to where I can rest later. But giving me that encouragement that I need to get up and go to church. Get up and go to church. Girl, you always tired on Sundays because you stay up too late on Saturdays. But guarantee you, once you get to church, once you see Zakari, which is my nephew, you are going to perk right up. Let's get up and go to church. And he'll say that to me. He knows there are different things that I love at church, that I love about church. Once you see your mother, which is his mom, once you see her, you're going to perk right up. Come on, get up for church. And I get up and go to church. And I'm so thankful and grateful that he doesn't say, okay, oh, you don't want to go to church? Okay, I ain't really want to go to church either. So let's just lay here. Let's just get back in bed. Let's just go watch Netflix until 12 o'clock on Sunday versus going to get poured into, going to get our spirit and our spiritual cup filled, right? So those are just different things that you get to think about, sis. Use your common sense. Your God gave you discernment and gave you intuition and gave you common sense. So you can be able to see the person in front of you for who they are, not who you want them to be. Stop making excuses for worldly men. Stop making excuses for godly men. If he's a godly man, he's a godly man. If he's a worldly man, he's a worldly man. Do with that as you may. If you claim you want a spiritual covering over you, your children, your future children, if you want a worldly man, a godly man, you have to choose better. You have to choose better. There's going to be godly men and worldly men who are attracted to you, but you get to say yes to their advances. You get to say yes to allowing them to court you. You get to say yes when they propose to you. You get to say yes or no, period. You get to say yes or no. So think about that. Don't just think about what's fun today. I don't care if he has a great spirit. I don't care if he has a lot of money. I don't care if he is diesel and has a lot of muscle and he looks good and he looks like how you want him to look physically. Think about the full picture. Can this man lead my family? Help us keep our salvation, right? Can he help us eat better? Can he help us live better? Is he bringing good things to the table? Is he bringing the table? Right? Those are the things as a woman who's being courted and vetting these men out here on the dating market. You got to put your discernment glasses on, your intuition glasses on, and your common sense glasses on. And you have to be ruthless and say, you know what? You cool, you cute, you cool, you got money, you like to travel like me, we got common interests. You might even say the Lord's name here or there. But however, I am sensing that you could not lead and properly lead my family. And of course, you're not saying this to him, right? This is what you're thinking in your head. He cannot properly lead my family to where I want my family to go. So I'm just going to bow out with this. And I'm going to wait for when a godly man approaches me to say yes to his courtship and say yes to being dated and being courted and being wooed by him, and then eventually get that ring. And we're going to talk about that in another video. All right. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that blessed you. Let me know in the comments what parts you really liked, what takeaways you got from it, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.